And a lot of you, myself or any of our marketing reps, have talked to you about this new application that Voya has built. What I can tell you is this: on a carrier level, I have never seen anything that can actually impact your guys' sales. This is a completely client-approved presentation. Eric's going to, excuse me, let me actually introduce Eric Thibault, who you'll hear from in just a minute, the sales vice president with Voya. Again, we've had the opportunity to look at this now for since they've been piloting it late in 2014. I truly, truly believe that this is an actual game changer, and I hate to use that cliche, but again, I've been doing this for 10-plus years, and I've had so many agents ask me, hey, do you have some sort of client-approved sales presentation, to position life insurance and IUL and stuff? And before today, we didn't. Before I turn it over to Eric, one thing I am going to mention is Optima and Voya have what's called a strategic alignment partnership. This software you're going to see today, not every agent out there is going to have access to it. You guys will have access to it because of your affiliation with Optima. So with that being said, Eric, why don't I turn it over to you? Let's walk through this and show everybody how cool it is.
Thank you, Greg. And we'll start from the East Coast. Good afternoon, all the way through good morning on the West Coast. Greg, thank you for allowing me to present our new mobile selling app called the Voya Lfe Journey. As Greg was saying, this is probably one of the most innovative things to come in our industry in a long time. It's a complete scripted selling system, as you'll see. There are marketing materials that you can share with your client, all forward-facing to the client, approved by our compliance department and our broker-dealer, so that's no small feat in itself. According to LIMRA, the average sales cycle for a life insurance sale is 3 meetings. What this tool will help you all do is turn those 3 meetings into 1. And so with that, let's go ahead and get started. This is the home page, the landing page of the Voya Financial, actually the Voya Lfe Journey, sorry. And we can start off with just simple learn more. We click that, and it's a simple question: where are you on the journey to your retirement readiness? You're either getting started, mid-career, pre-retirement, or retirement. And any of these sections, these little tabs, you can touch. So if we say mid-career as an example, that gives kind of the demographic. You have kids, house, car, college that you're trying to save for, a lot of things that are happening. And anywhere in here, you can click on Get Information, and there are client-approved marketing materials, such as Avoid the 3 pitfalls to retirement planning. And those are inflation, taxes, and low investment return. I like to show clients this one when I'm actually presenting this at first because of the inflation factor. And I want you to keep this in mind as we go through the demonstration of the Voya Lfe Journey. You see, most Americans are familiar when they talk about or hear about inflation, 3 letters, CPI, Consumer Price Index. That's pretty good, all right? I guess it's fair. But why does everybody think that's the measure? Because that's what we're told on television. There's actually a more true measurement called the EPI, the Everyday Price Index, all right? And right now, the CPI is hovering around 2%. EPI is about 8. What is the big difference? EPI captures the things that Americans buy every single day: food, power, all those things. Whereas the CPI, the only thing that is part of CPI that people purchase every day would be oil products, gasoline and diesel for their automobiles. So think about that from a common sense perspective. Do you all go out and buy televisions and appliances every day? No, of course not. Those are the main factors, the big purchase items, the houses, all of that. So if we keep that in mind, we think about inflation, CPI is telling us somewhere between 2 and 3, and EPI is hovering around 8. So there's got to be something in the middle that's more of a realistic number. And from time to time, I apologize, the connection to the GoToMeeting keeps going in and out. So I apologize for that. And let me see if I can get it back real quick. Just waiting on the Citrix server to come back on.
Well, it does that too, just real quick, because we do have a large group on. I forgot to mention at the top of the call, if there are any questions throughout the period of the call, go ahead and use the that chat feature, and I will go ahead and answer those throughout the call. So. Still no connection, Eric?
I am trying. This is the challenge with the GoToMeeting, is that sometimes it just wants to be difficult and not play along in a friendly manner. There we go. I am back. Okay, everybody should see that the connection has been restored. Okay, thankfully, there we are. So, sorry about that, everyone. A couple of navigation features on the mobile app, as we call it for short, or Voya Lfe Journey. There's always, you're going to see at the top of the screen a back arrow, or if you want to touch the word Voya on the top right, you touch that, and it's always going to bring you back to this home screen. Okay, and keep in mind throughout this entire demonstration, this is to be used in front of your client with your client, either connecting it directly to their television via Apple TV or a HDMI cable, whatever you'd like to do. And the other important point is, as opposed to traditional selling methods, this is just walking a client through a conversation. So at different points along the side, you'll see navigation bars. So if we go to the light bulb, this is solutions. Okay, there's 4 products that we sell: term, UL, IUL, and variable universal. If you click on index as an example, you'll see consumer brochures, also agent guides. So our Global Choice product, you would see agent guide. You would see consumer brochure, retirement backup plan, so marketing materials for you and for your clients. You click on the wrench, that's tools. We have 3 tools that you can shortcut to, which would be protection needs, which is an old-fashioned needs analysis to answer the question, well, how much do I really need? There's our newest tool, which is our retirement income gap calculator. It shows people what the real pain is. Many Americans think that, that I have saved, they think, well, I'm going to be all right. I've got plenty of money, until they have to turn that into income, and then they realize, uh-oh, I may not have enough. And then finally, the app wizard, which we'll cover. If you go to the tool navigation bar on the left-hand side that looks like a road, that is the actual scripted selling system. As Greg had said earlier, they do a lot of training, and we've done a lot of training at Voya, and providing good content and education. The number one question we've had in the last 2 years of doing agent training has been, this is all great information, but what do I say? How do I open the conversation? Now that you have this tool, that question is answered. So what's really unique is on the left-hand side, on the very bottom, you'll see a white piece of paper. If I click that, there is your script. So obviously, as I'm clicking on that, you all see it. But what does that mean? Your client sees it. So kind of common sense here. Practice on your wife, practice on your dog, practice on your husband, whatever. Look in the mirror, practice. You don't want to be pulling the script up every time you go through a client. Okay? So if we start here, we start off with a basic premise of, we're here today to talk about planning for your retirement and what's involved in that. And I want to walk you through a path, a journey, if you will, to help you really think about what's important to you when you're planning for retirement. So we start off with a basic question. Imagine yourself in retirement, and you want to get the client really engaged in that and say, where do you think you want to live? Do you want to live in Florida? Do you want to live in the desert? What does that look like? How do you want to spend your time? Are there hobbies you've always wanted to do? Do you want to visit grandkids, travel? What is it that you want to do? what matters most to you. You get them thinking, okay? And moving along, then we start to make some statements. We've asked a question, then we make a statement. And the statement is retirement dreams don't just happen. You have to work at them. This is an ongoing process. It's not a destination. It's truly a journey, which is why we named this the Voya Life Journey. As you can see on the bottom, there are different little icons with different little pictures. So if you want to go to a specific section of the selling system, once you've practiced it, you can go to a specific section. Some of the icons, such as the next one with the little person on it, the little blue person, that's the first, as I would say, call to action to your client. I think all of you know on the phone that in selling, what we do is made up of the following, and you may or may not agree with me, and that's okay, but on average, 90% of what we do is math, or I'm sorry, 10% of what we do is math, 90% is psychology. So if we work from that premise, when you're sitting in front of your client, you obviously know their name, they're not going to be a valued client, you would turn your iPad over to them and say, can you please fill this in? They put in their dates of birth, annual income. And so in our example case here, we have a husband and wife. He was born in 69. She's born in 70. He makes $100,000 a year. They have 2 children. She's a stay-at-home mom. Okay? That's good information. What are some of the challenges that could derail your retirement dreams? We talked about and had you project out that dream, what it looks like, where you want to live. Well, there's some really important challenges that you need to be prepared for, such as outliving your income. Okay? This is Census Bureau information. You cannot turn on primetime television Monday through Friday and not see a commercial about this very topic. So Americans are becoming more and more aware of the longer you live, the more money you're going to need to survive. How about Social Security benefits? You see, back in 1960, in round numbers, we had 5 people paying in for every 1 person withdrawing. Those numbers are starting to flip upside down now. So with fewer people paying into the system, Social Security is going to have less money to provide a comfortable retirement. Interesting. That's probably not news to anybody. How about tax rate trends? All right. What we have in the dark orange are historical low rates for the lowest income earners, and then the lighter orange is historical rates for the highest income earners. You'll see that the mean or the median is 50%. Isn't that interesting that over the last couple of years when the top federal marginal rate went from 35 to 39.6, a lot of our clients started to panic, and their number one question to you as their advisor was, I need a tax deduction. How are you going to get me that? Wait a minute. Do we not have an $18 trillion deficit? One of the only sure ways out of that hole is to raise taxes. So the likelihood of taxes going down anytime soon is probably slim and none. How about increased annual health care costs? Okay. Right now, if you are 69 years old, living in America, and these are average numbers, you're going to expect to have an additional $4,575 out-of-pocket medical costs. That does not include your Medicare premiums, your Parts A, B, and D. Okay? That's additional costs. And as you can see from this chart, as you get older, the car gets older, you start to break down, the costs go up. So now what we've done is, in an educational way, brought in some disturbance and make the client think about these things. Most Americans are unprepared for 2 primary features of their life, or 2 primary transitional parts of their life. One being saving. Okay, Americans have too little saved. Nearly 60% of Americans have less than $50,000 saved. Okay, this is a source from LIMRA. That's pretty frightening. How about not being protected enough, meaning life insurance? You know, over 50% of families would have a significant change in their lifestyle if the primary breadwinner were to die. What does that really mean? 50% of American families, when the primary breadwinner dies, could be bankrupt and homeless. That's a pretty staggering number. So let's keep moving along on our journey. Next question. So, Mr. Client, how would you protect your family if the unexpected happens? What does that really mean? In other words, if you were to die between now and retirement, what amount of money would your family need to maintain their lifestyle? So we go to one of our first calculators. All right, we start off and say, okay, well, what do you have in life insurance right now? Oh, I work at GE, and I get $250,000, and it's like 10 cents a week out of my paycheck. It's nothing, and it's plenty of insurance. Oh, is it now? Is it now? So you just told me a few slides back that you make $100,000 of annual income, all right? And so if you had $250,000, that would last your wife about 2.5 years. Is that okay for Mrs. Client? The answer is probably going to be no. Most likely what will happen is the client will ask you a question, well, how much should I need? And in our industry, one of the quick answers would be, how about a multiple of income? 7 times, 10 times, 18 times. If we stopped at 10 times, he would say, oh, well, you need $1 million. But you can see in the purple line, you have an income protection gap, meaning you're underinsured by $750,000. Is that the right number? We don't know. If you go a little further and you see the plus sign towards the bottom of your screen, we actually can bring up our needs analysis calculator. Again, walk your client through it, get them engaged, and have them complete these boxes with your coaching. In other words, what does this mean? Some clients may not know what about final and medical expenses. So in our example here, this client has a $400,000 mortgage. They've got credit card and car payment debt of maybe $50,000. They want to set aside, or at least like to have $100,000 for college education, and maybe donate, if they were to die, $10,000 to their alma mater and an emergency fund, okay, of $25,000. That in itself, right there, equates to $595,000. And you, Mr. Client, only have $250 provided by your employer. What about your wife? And this is so powerful when the wife is sitting in on the meeting. You ask the question. So, knowing that the above were to be taken care of, meaning there would not be a mortgage, hopefully any more credit card debt, no car payments, what would your wife need on a monthly basis to survive, to feed the kids, pay the taxes on the house, utilities, clothing, all of those kind of things? Let them come up with an answer. So in our example, they came up with an answer of $3,000. And for 15 years. Okay. Well, if you see at the bottom of your screen, that's another $467,000. So if you look towards the top right of your screen, the total needed death would be $1,062,000. Okay. So at 10 times income, we were pretty close, weren't we? But what if the wife says, well, wait a minute, so financial advisor, agent Greg Olson, so this is good. I would have $3,000 a month for 15 years. But after 15 years, then what? Well, then that's it. This chunk of money is gone. Well, what if I need it longer? Well, one of the things you could consider is how much insurance would you need to provide that $3,000 a month for 15 years without invading the principal. Let's assume that you had a chunk of money and you could put that somewhere in savings and then maybe 6% have an anticipated inflation rate. We're talking about the inflation again of 4%. What does that look like? You go down here to the little yes, no, preserve the principal, and if I turn that on to yes, you'll see that preserving the principal and providing $3,000 a month for 15 years equates to an additional death benefit of $1.8 million. Now, if you look to the top right of your screen, you'll see a total need of $2.3 million. Wow. Under the orange button, update your total need. I touch that. I scroll back up, and now you can see in the purple line, this family, this husband and wife, have a protection gap of $2.1 million. Wow. Now we've just shown them that the $250 that they have from their employer is 10% of what their need is. Let's think about retirement. When do you want to retire? Well, gosh, I heard and read in Money Magazine that 67 is the new 65, and if I wait to 67, it might provide me a few more dollars in Social Security. Okay, perfect. 67 it is. So that means you have 22 years, you're 45 years old, you have 22 years to prepare for retirement. Now the next question is, how long do you think you might live? Most times the client will say, I don't know. Well, you can say, well, the average life expectancy in America is somewhere between 85 and 87, 88, whatever you think. How are your parents? Are they still alive? How long did your grandparents live? Those kind of things. And you come up with a number. So they settled on 87 for the husband, and, well, wives typically live longer. They're not as crazy as males. That's just how it is. So let's just assume that she lives for a few more years, 4 more years longer than he does. So, again, 22 years to prepare, and then you're both not going to have to live off of what you prepared for 20 years, and then the surviving spouse will have to live another 4 years on what's left over. Let's talk about Social Security. Now, because Mrs. Client doesn't work, as they pointed out to us earlier in the conversation, she's not entitled to any Social Security income yet. But the husband is. So if he waits to take Social Security at age 67, under current Social Security laws, he would be able to receive $30,444 a year. Not bad. Well, what if he waits to age 70? Oh, now we can get $38,000. Maybe he says, gosh, I don't want to wait till 70, to start taking income, and I'm going to be tired. I don't want to work that long. All right, let's go back to age 67. So at 67, there you are, $30,000. Let's talk about tax rates. We saw the tax rate trend. Okay, we know that there is a huge deficit out there. Likelihood of taxes going down is very slim. So where do you think your taxes will be in the future? Do you think they'll be higher when you retire? So right now, and what's really cool about this is that there's only 2 choices. We have the tax code programmed into this. If you look at the drop-down box on the left, there's only 2 choices for a married couple, either married filing jointly or married filing separately. Well, married filing separately is not going to apply here because the wife isn't working. Okay, so their only choice is really married filing jointly. So at $100,000 a year, okay, they're at 25, and maybe round up with state taxes, they'd probably be right now about a 28% tax bracket. So what about in the future? Where do you think you might be? 35? 36? Higher? Let the client answer the number, okay? So we'll just stop at 35. Great. Another call to action. Here's what we like to refer to as the money page. We're on a treasure hunt looking for clients' assets, are we not? In every conversation. So we start off on the far left side. Mr. and Mrs. Olson, what do you have in your qualified plan savings, a.k.a. your 401k? Oh, I have $200,000. Okay, fill that in. How much are you contributing? $6,000. Why only 6? Well, because I get 100% match up to $6,000. And, I do have these 2 kids, and, we're saving anymore. I don't know if that's a good idea. Okay. What rate of return do you think that you can achieve between now and 67? And let them answer. Oh, our sample person said, okay, 7%. What about taxable savings? Do you have anything else? Oh, well, yeah, I do. I have some long-term CDs and this and that, and it's $25,000. You putting any more into that? No, that was just my cash. Okay, so what are you earning on that? Oh, I'm earning 2%. You try not to laugh and say, okay, sure you are, but okay, I'll play along. Whatever rate of return, it really doesn't matter. You can change. If you want to put in here, if you want to put 1%, it really doesn't matter, okay? What about tax-free savings? Well, what is that? How about a Roth? Do you have that? Oh, yeah, I did that a couple times. Well, how much is in there? About $25,000. Are you still contributing? Nah, I don't know. I just, again, braces are coming up. I just not doing it. All right. What are you earning on that? I don't know, 6%. Great. So what this tool just did as you're having this conversation is it took all 3 pots of money, their assumed rate of return between now and 67, and it's telling you in the light orange line that these 3 pots of money are going to provide a pre-tax retirement income annually of $125,000 a year. Assuming a 35% tax bracket, that's going to leave them with $85,000. That typically, we know that as being in the financial services industry to be true. You will all be surprised if you haven't been already. Most Americans forget the tax man is going to take a piece of their retirement savings from the qualified plan. They forget that. I'm not sure why, but they just do. So here's a good aha moment. Next question. How much do you think you're going to need when you retire? You see, most financial advisors have, I think, misinformed and misled the American public by saying, you know, you're only going to need 60 to 70% of your income to retire on. Why? I can't answer the why. Well, your mortgage will be paid off. Interesting. You can find statistics all over the internet, AARP, all kinds of places. The majority of baby boomers today still have mortgages. So the thought of paying off the mortgage is not realistic, okay? They either had to borrow money, refinance, take money out so they couldn't pay off their mortgage, or they decided, hey, you know, the kids are out, I don't need a big house, and I'm moving to Walton Beach, Florida, okay, or Naples, Florida, wherever. You know, I'm going to buy a condo, easy. Well, I still have a mortgage with that, don't I? Yes. Interesting. Okay, so how about if we just look at something more realistic, such as you want to achieve 100% of your income in retirement. Looks like we just had another outage. Oli, can you still see the screen?
I can, yep.
You can see the iPad?
Yes.
Okay. It's out on my end, so in system, hopefully, while I'm still covering the slide, it will come back. And it should be good to go. So what the screen is continuing to tell the client is that, okay, if you have $100,000 in income today, and we assume a 4% inflation rate, that means that you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, are going to need today's dollars, $246,000 when you retire to achieve 100% income. That is usually one of the first eye-openers. They go, whoa, yeah, we got that we don't have enough insurance. We understand that. That was pretty eye-opening, but this really starts to hit it home to them and introduces gently, in a very soft conversation, some pain, okay? I'm going to see if I can't get this back. I apologize. See if my connection is back. Greg, any questions from the group so far as we're moving along?
One popular one came through. I've tried to answer as many as I could, but a lot of people were asking that might have missed on the front end if you could download this just off the you know, from Apple Store. Again, as I mentioned, you have to have an active writing number with Optima to get that. So again, we'll follow up with everybody after the call and make sure that either A, you're currently doing your Voya business with us, or B, we'll get you going, and then it's a special link that will be sent to you. You can't go to the Apple Store and just download it. So.
Exactly. Exactly. I apologize, everybody. I'm still trying to get up. I don't know if my go-to meeting is.
Gotta love technology.
Yeah, it's fun when it works, and most times it's helpful, and sometimes it's really not.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows why we're experiencing this, so this app, as we've mentioned, is only available via iPad. It's not on you know, the Android tablets or even actually on your actual computer screen. So we have to use another set of software to actually take the iPad and reflect that image onto a presentation. So that's where the connectivity sometimes is. We run into a bit of an issue, but that is the best way that we can, you know, actually go through and show a large group the application. So.
I'm just trying one little technical thing right here to see if I can get it back. should be just a few seconds away. There we go. Okay. I should be ready to go now. There we go. I'm back. Okay. Apologize, everyone, for that. So, hey, just like in any good television show, we have commercial breaks. And there was our commercial break. All right, so we are back in action. So on here, as I was saying, it's going to take $246,000 a year to provide, assuming a 4% inflation rate, 100% of your $100,000 current income. Here's our retirement income gap calculator. This is a powerful tool. So what you're seeing on the bottom in the dark orange is what you have currently. The green line will be your Social Security. The thin orange line on the top, that's the target. That's your goal. And the green and white striped line, that's the problem. That's the pain. That's the income gap. So as you see towards the bottom of your screen, on a pre-tax basis, you need 246. What you have right now is going to provide you 125. So on a pre-tax basis, you have a gap of $120,000. Assuming a 35% tax bracket on the far right, you have a gap of $75,000. You see on the far right, I can touch the Create Report button. And I'm going ahead and creating a report. And what's great, this is, again, can't say it enough, compliance approved to share with your client. And it usually takes a couple seconds. And now I have a report here. Okay? Shows everything you just saw on the actual screen of the iPad. And then it goes into detail down on the second page. All the assumptions we put in right there for the client, the compounding mode, inflation rate, retirement income, qualified plan savings, taxable, tax-free, Social Security, okay? And if you look at the far top right of your screen, you will see a box with an arrow. Those of you that are familiar with Apple technology, this is some sort of a sharing button. If I touch that, what can I do with this information? If the client has Apple products turned on in their office or their house, wherever you medium, you can airdrop the information to them, you can text it to them, or you can email it to them right there while you're sitting with them. Very convenient. As I said earlier at the top of the meeting, this takes the 3-meeting sales process down to 1 meeting. So now that they see we have a gap, what's next? We ask a question. Next question would be, think about filling the gaps, okay? You have a retirement income gap on an after-tax basis of $75,000, and you have a protection gap for your family of $2.1 million. Where would you like to focus? Would you like to focus just on the income gap? Or if there were a way to do both, would you like to focus on solving for the protection and the retirement income gap? So this client says, okay, let's go for both. Let's go ahead and focus on doing both. The two solutions that are here behind the scenes, the one on the left, retirement only, is our retirement extra concept. It's been around forever. Okay? The one on the right is what's called, and some of you may be familiar with, our app combo, which is accumulation and protection planning combo, where with one illustration, one application, the illustration software is based on this right here. We would say, okay, well, we need $2.1 million, and then we need to know how much the client's budget is. The illustration will shoot out the software will shoot out one illustration. Shows we're going to use term for the majority of our death benefit and permanent for the majority of our savings. And you'll see that in just a minute. So as we go through, we want to remind them. We want to take a pause because we've introduced some pain and remind them about the realities we face. Shrinking Social Security, rising healthcare costs, you're living longer. So what would be our natural next steps? Well, we need to review the alternatives that are out there. What asset classes or asset types are available to you to maybe solve your problems and help you reach your retirement dreams, okay? Then we need to select your financial vehicle and then verify qualifications that are associated with whatever vehicle that seems to fit for you. So the options. There's pretty much 4 broad categories. There's Taxable account option, think mutual funds, money managers, individual stocks. Tax deferred, think annuities, qualified plans, pretty self-explanatory, and something you may or may not be familiar with, Mr. Client, cash value life insurance. So, Mr. and Mrs. Olson, on the far left, you'll see summary of benefits. There are 9 potential benefits that are very meaningful to you. You can see them right in front of you. One of the ones I like to point out is just about 60% of the way down the page is the no 10% penalty for distributions prior to age 59 and a half. You know, many Americans think that that's not a big deal. So let me give you some statistics that any of you that have something to write with can write this down. In 2011, Americans paid $5.8 billion in the pre-59 and a half 10% penalty for withdrawing money out of qualified plans. That means that $58 billion was withdrawn from qualified plans. That 10% penalty, as we all know, does not include the federal and state income tax that were paid. In 2012, the number was a little better. It was only $5.7 billion that was paid in 10% penalties, which equated to $57 billion in withdrawals from qualified plans. I think that's kind of an important one. So let's see, out of all 4 of these, what potential benefits they have to you. By clicking on the tab above, you can see that the taxable account, that's pretty good. Gosh, we have 5 out of the 9. That's pretty awesome. How about the annuity? Wow, only 4. Okay. How about the qualified plan? 3. How about cash value life insurance? 8 out of 9. That's pretty strong. This is a viable asset class that you should include in your overall retirement planning. And you can see that just going through this simple exercise, Mr. and Mrs. Olson, this points right to life insurance as being a valuable asset class to you. So, interestingly enough, with cash value life insurance, you have to qualify for it medically. So again, we have more questions. You can see throughout this whole process, we're not just speaking to the client, we're keeping them engaged. Tell me about your height and weight. Okay, so you're 6'2", 200 pounds. Great. So are you somewhat healthy, very healthy, exceptionally healthy? I hope all of you are noticing something here that's not on the page, and that's by design. We didn't put standard, select, preferred, super preferred. Why? Well, 1, that's our own industry language, and 2, most people, given the choice, are saying, oh, heck yeah, I'm the best there is. I'm A number 1, I'm super preferred, I'm the fastest, I'm the skinniest, I'm the smartest. Okay, great, that's cool, good. So we wanted to build this whole thing, and I hope you've all seen so far this morning, with a focus on plain English. Okay, not to oversimplify it, but that's really where we're coming from. If the client says, gosh, I don't know, right under the weight category, you'll see 3 orange words, rate your health. If I touch that, let the client read. Here's what's interesting. Under each one of these categories, this information is coming directly from our underwriting guidelines at Voya. So the client can get an idea of where they're at. So very healthy would mean, my BP is 140/90 max, and that includes if it's treated, meaning you're on blood pressure medicine. Okay? Good. Your cholesterol, even if it's treated, is below 300. Great. No cardiovascular-related deaths in your family before age 60, and so on. Okay? So you let the client choose that. Say, all right, this is pretty interesting. Then we go to the next page. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Olson, you know you have a $75,000 annual retirement income gap. How much could you save, in addition to what you're already doing, on a monthly or annual basis to help close that gap? And they're going to come up with something. Who knows what that number is? You put it in. All right, let's move forward. In this case, they said, all right, I can put another $2,000 a month in. Okay. So now we start to calculate. And as we're doing this, you let them read the screen. None of this stuff on the screen is anything earth-shattering. Pay yourself first. People have been told that by advisors since the dawn of advisory. Okay? Stick to your goals And remember that you need to review your plan every year. This isn't a one and done, set it and forget it. So what you're going to find here, as soon as this comes up, it typically takes, if you're connected during or through Wi-Fi, about 20 seconds for a report to come up. If you're connected over your cellular service, depending on how strong your service is, how many bars you have, it might take a few seconds longer. So remember, the client shows they wanted to focus on both the protection need and the income need. This is our app combo. They said that they have a $2,000 monthly budget. They need $2.1 million in protection. Our software already allocated this up for them. The majority of the protection is going to come from term. Why? Because it's cheap. We all know that. So of my $2,000 a month, I'm only allocating $200 towards the majority of my protection need. However, that leaves almost $1,800, $1,786 a month to be allocated towards my savings policy, my Index Universal Life Savings Policy. Okay? I can go down below now and hit View Illustration. Word to the wise, if you're in a public place or if you're at a customer's office and everybody, the whole office is on Wi-Fi, or if you're at a customer's home and their kids are on their Game Boys and they're on their computers and everything, and the client doesn't have strong bandwidth, you may not get the illustration the first time through. Okay? So as this is calculating our illustration, you start to ask questions. So, what do you think so far? I mean, I know this might seem daunting, but we can get there. And any second, this should pop up. So what do we have here? We have an illustration. So you, as the agent advisor, once you have a link here provided by Optima Financial, as you're registering, your information comes up. So you can see the illustration is already presented by you. In this case, obviously, it's me. Doesn't this shortcut the system? Because normally what happens, client says, yes, this is interesting. I really want to proceed. What will this look like? If I have this amount of money, how much income is it going to provide me? How much death benefit is it going to provide me? And what's the normal answer? Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we schedule a meeting for later this week or early next week? I will go and run some quotes, illustrations for you, and we'll get back together. What is the inherent problem in that? Sometimes next week never comes. The client starts to think about it, and they decide maybe they're not as interested anymore, or they were too shocked by the numbers you showed them, and they just don't want to move forward. Here you have an illustration that you can show the client right now, everything that's going on. Okay? There's your illustration. And remember what I said before, all this stuff you can send to your client. Again, I go up to the top right of the screen, and I can airdrop it, text it, or email the illustration to them right there when I'm sitting in front of them. You just shortcutted the sales process. Pretty nice. So, moving along, here's our summary. Getting to your goals. You have a retirement income gap annual of $75,000. The life insurance is going to provide $55,000, almost $56,000 a year tax-free. You need $2.1 million of protection in addition to the $250 you already have. The life insurance is going to provide you with $2.1. So your protection goals have been met. We're a little shy, about $18,000 shy on the income goal. So now we ask the obvious question. Do you think you could save a few $100s more a month? Yes or no? If the answer is no, that's okay. Mr. Olson, I'm sure you're probably going to get a raise this year, might even get a bonus. And remember, this is just today. Every year we're going to be fine-tuning this. So maybe next year, so a credit card's paid off, you got a bonus, a raise, we can allocate more towards getting you to your goals. And you can see, here is our summary. You can see how we've allocated the premium of $2,000 a month, most of it going towards your savings policy, your IUL policy, the minority of that dollar amount going towards your term, all right? There's a total premium over 22 years, distributions of $55,985, pretty fantastic, okay? Now let's explore our options. Remember, we wanted to compare our options, and we agreed earlier that if we compare it to a taxable account, tax-deferred, and qualified plan with insurance, I think we all agreed that, gosh, the insurance is pretty interesting. It provides most of the benefits that are important to me as an American consumer that's planning and saving for my retirement. But let's just not take a chart for granted. Let's look at actual numbers. So here's a graphic of that. What this is showing you all is putting the same amount of money into each one of these alternatives and how much money in total the client's going to be able to take out. What are your total distributions? Pretty strong. How about a little bit more detail? We call this our financial alternatives. This can be added to any illustration. Okay? Here's the numbers. So we have $2,000 a month, right? $24,000 a year. But remember, we're assuming that we're going to spend about $213 of that on term, regardless of whether we buy a permanent life insurance policy or not. So that leaves roughly $21,437 a year to put into one of these other alternatives. All right? Obviously, it goes into each one of these four, and if you could put that much in your qualified plan, which we all know that the maximum contribution is $18,000, but just to play fair, the pre-tax number in a 28% tax bracket of $21,000 would be $29,000. And here's what's interesting. The taxable account, if you look down towards the end of the table, taxable account runs out of money at 81, the annuity at 82, your qualified plan at 84. Remember, you wanted income to at least age 87. Life insurance made it. Now, to be fair, we assumed everybody had a 7% rate of return, if you look below the table. And management fees, we assumed the lowest, 50 basis points on the mutual fund. That's almost impossible. Most mutual funds range between 100 basis points and 400 basis points. We wanted to intentionally turn the fees down. You have the ability to dial the fees up or down as you choose as an advisor. Same with the annuity product. We figured an all-in fee of $125 on your qualified plan and then the regular COIs, M&E on life insurance. I think this is a pretty staggering table here to show the clients, wow. So we saw the benefit side, the soft, warm, and fuzzy features, and now we're seeing the actual black and white numbers. That's pretty darn interesting. So now that we know that life insurance is a really good solution, okay, what about understanding the solution? So again, in plain English, forward-facing to the American public, you can hit any one of these drop-down boxes, life insurance defined and its potential benefits. You can see all of the benefits that are right there, very plain. You let them read it, okay? Then, how about the types and benefits of life insurance? Well, there's only two types. There's term and perm. We all know that. The American public may not necessarily know that. How about added benefits of index universal life? Wow. Potential of index crediting, rates of return, positive, that's great. But how about index performance protection, meaning you're not going to go, when the market goes negative, you're not going to go negative and lose principal. Here's one of my favorite pieces in this entire tool. I mean, the whole thing I think is wonderful. It is truly, like Craig said, it's a game changer. We call it compound, don't rebound. So the idea of this exercise is to ask your client, if you had $1,000 and you were going to invest it in something, I don't care what that something is, and its returns are going to be, for the next 10 years, they're going to be up 12%, down 12%, up 12, down percent for the next 10 years. What is your rate of return? Most clients will say 0. So you think, well, gosh, I went up 12, and then I went down 12, and then I got it back again because I went up 12 again. I go over here to the top and I display no floor. Interesting, and this kind of opens their eyes. I started with $1,000, up 12, down 12 for the next 10 years. I ended at 930. That's a negative 7% return, or a 7% loss on my principal. Wow. Well, what, Mr. Client, what if we could introduce a floor that would keep you from going down in negative markets? It would protect the gains that you achieved. What would that look like? We call it a floor. We'll assume a 0 floor, meaning the worst that could happen when the market goes down, the worst return would be a 0 return. What does that look like? I think it's pretty powerful, don't you, Greg?
Absolutely. It's this right here, the compound out rebound. When we've looked at it and showed it to a few screenshots that we took, a lot of people really like that one, Eric.
I think there's all kinds of details in anything we sell. We know that. As the saying goes, devil's in the details. But for a quick explanation of the benefits of Index Universal Life, I think this slide captures all of that in one short conversation. So we go to summary. And here's our summary. Okay. So we need a target after-tax income of $160,000. Your current resources are going to provide you $85,000. You have $55,000 coming from, almost $56,000 coming from your new life insurance savings plan, supplemental savings. We only have a gap of $19,000. Again, don't fret. I'm sure that as time goes on, we're going to be able to add more to this, more savings, and we'll get there. But you need to commit to meeting with me once a year as your advisor so we can fine-tune this. Your protection gap is 0. You needed 2.3, and you've got it. They're shown in the summary, and then we go to the next page, apply. Hope you all noticed there's been about 4 different screens where you have the chance to continue to show the illustration again and again and again. If the client says, oh, I want to see it again, you show it to them. You can walk them through that. And one more time, you can always send it to them. Kind of nice. They've got the illustration right there. Now let's go to apply for coverage. Here's what happens. You hit apply for coverage. Up comes our forms wizard, or what we call app, short for application wizard. You just have to go through and say yes or no to any of these forms. It packages them up. Okay? Then what happens is this is the only place. Everything else that was emailed that you sent to your client, of course, is going to your client. But you'll notice right here, towards the top of the page, package to be emailed to eric.thibault@voya.com. Well, that would be you. That's the only thing that's coming directly to you when you send an email from this app. Why? Because you're the advisor, you're the agent. Okay? So when you email a package, you get an email instantaneously with the package. You go through and you can fill it out. Now, this app is free. The only thing it's going to cost you is, again, to be contracted and appointed through Optima. And hopefully this will help you write some business. There is one thing you're going to have to buy. Okay? And you're going to need to buy $1.99 in the Apple App Store, Adobe Reader. When you get the email, you open up the application package, and you can forward that or save that to right into your Adobe Reader. I happen to have one set up here. Let me show you something that's really kind of cool. So I open up Performance Package. I can go through and type in all the information right here from my iPad. Okay? So you go through that process, then we get to the signature. Here's what's cool about the Adobe. Okay? If you go to the top of your screen, focus on the top right of your screen. Okay, I've touched it. You're going to see some icons up here. There's a caption with a pencil. I touch that. Look down at the bottom of the screen. Second from the far right is a little pencil, a white pencil. I touch that pencil. I hand the iPad over to the client, and where it says proposed insurance signature, I can sign it. You hit save. It's done. I go back to my documents. Okay? Now what I can do is I can take this document and email it to Optima, and then they will submit it to Voya. So in one meeting, we have taken the client through their retirement dreams, shown them that they do need to focus on more protection for their family. We've shown them that they need to save more. We've been able to provide them an illustration, provide them material to help them understand what they're purchasing. We've been able to provide them with their application. They can fill it out. And now, 3 meetings into one, we sold a case. So speaking of that, on Monday, what we did was I did a training similar to this, but I did live in front of 29 different agents. And when the training started, there were 5 people that had the mobile selling app, the Lfe Journey, already downloaded. Okay. By the end of the meeting, 10 more of the 29. By Monday night, one agent had sold 3 cases, one for $45,000 in annual premium, and one for $12,000, and one for something a little less, maybe $10,000, $11,000. I don't exactly remember that one. But in one day after, one agent had sold 3 cases. The meeting ended at about 11:30. They started calling clients, met with them, sold it. So that's the Lfe Journey. And again, in review, there's shortcuts. You go to the timeline. Remember, this is the demographic page. Where are you in your career? The solutions page, the types of insurance, shortcut to the tools, the actual selling app, and the journey, okay? And as I said, each one of these screens, except obviously illustrations, are going to show you scripts. So if you were to choose back to 65, I could touch the white piece of paper on the left side, and there's my script. So you don't have to memorize this word for word, but it's kind of helpful to say, okay, it's at least a guide for me. I can pick up the salient points of the script, and this is a compliance-approved script, obviously, and I can make it my own, and I can have meaningful conversations. So with that, Greg, any questions? Thank you for allowing me to present this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just kind of, in closing here too, there were a lot of questions. I tried to answer as many as I could. For those of you that we didn't get to, you'll receive a follow-up call, and we'll go through those. But Eric, before I close here, one quick thing. A lot of similar questions were, is and when will this be available for Android, and same with on a laptop? And as of now, it is currently an iPad-only application.
That is correct, Greg. It is not going to be available for your laptop. Reason being is this is a mobile selling system. Laptops aren't necessarily that mobile. Even if you're using a MacBook Pro, it takes a while to turn them on and everything. iPads are designed for this. The reason we went with the Apple iPad versus Android, when we started developing this in January of 2013, we started down a dual path of Android and iPad, and we quickly found, we hired an outside consulting and programming firm to help us with this. We quickly found that programming in Android for this type of application is not as robust as Apple. So we are not going to be offering this anytime soon to the Android platform, and it's certainly not going to be on your computer. Again, the problem with your computer is it takes a while to load up. They're bulky. You don't have the ability to do the AirPlay and match beam the signal over to your client's TV if they have Apple TV. A lot of limitations in the laptop, so that's why we're staying with the Apple.
Perfect. All right. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for their time. As Eric said, I'm just going to reiterate one thing. If you're interested in this, and again, you guys will get a phone call from somebody on our staff talking about that. What we need to get is we need to make sure that you have your Voya contract with us. Once you have an active number, you'll get an actual personalized link to download this application. One thing to keep in mind, if you're like, oh, I got this link, let me forward it to this other agent buddy of mine. As soon as you forward it, that link is dead. So just know that you cannot access this without an actual active writing number. I did record today's webinar, so everybody that's on here, I will get you a replay so you can go back and take a look. And keep in mind, this actually just went live to the general population of agents on Monday. This is something new. Again, this is a tool that you guys will have access to. You're not going to run into competition with this that often. There are other GAs out there that have access like we do, but that number is very small in the grand scheme of things. So it definitely gives us a leg up, gives you a leg up, gets Voya a leg up on the competition as well. And again, lastly, when you look at this, I know today's webinar went a while, which is fine because I really wanted to make sure we went through how the whole process worked. But if you get access to this, you're not going to just take it out of the box and go make a sale. And Eric will say the same. We encourage you to play with it a little bit. the folks here, any of the marketing reps that you're working with has access to it as well. So we can help on some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, what they've designed and what we're hoping will happen is they've designed an actual presentation that will help you guys close more business, and I truly believe that. So with that being said, some of the questions that didn't get answered, we will call you guys to follow up. I want to let everybody go, but and most importantly, I want to thank Eric for his time today, and we look forward to speaking with all of you. So have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.